Hello, everyone, and welcome to Africa Fire Mission's weekly virtual training session. My name is Mike, and I'm the programs director here at Africa Fire Mission. So happy you took time out of your busy schedules to join us for today's training. Today, we're joined by Africa Fire Mission's executive director, Nancy Moore. We're really excited to have her here with us today and lead in today's instruction. Before we get started, just a couple of administrative notes. If you stick around for at least 70% of today's training, which is usually about 40 or 45 minutes, I can get you a certificate of attendance for today's class. If you get cut off or your bundle drops, that's okay. Keep an eye on the chat. We're going to post a link to our Google Drive where you can find a recording of today's training and any of the other trainings that we've done so far this year. If you'd like to get caught up, just go there, watch a recording of today's class, answer a couple questions about what you learned, and we'll get you a certificate of attendance for that as well. Recordings are also available on our YouTube page. If you haven't subscribed to that, we'd ask you to do that for us as well. We'd really appreciate that. When we get finished at the top of the hour, we'll transition into our tea time, which is a time where you can ask questions about today's class or just get the opportunity to network with firefighters from throughout Africa. So if you've got the time, I'd invite you to stick around for that as well. At this point in time, I'm going to pass things over to our executive director to get us started with today's training.
Hi, everyone. It's so great to be here with you all today. Thank you so much for joining Africa Fire Mission throughout 2024. Great to see some familiar names and faces and also new faces and places. So we've really seen a growth in terms of where people are from around the world joining us, especially as we've had more fire service personnel from the Middle East join us. So grateful for each and every one of you and hope that you find this valuable. I know at the end of the training, but I'm going to talk about it now as well. We'll send out a link for an evaluation that'll go into the chat. If you have not filled one of those out this year, we encourage you to do it every week, but I know sometimes that can get away from you. Would really encourage you here. This is our last training of the year, and we're already ready for our 2025 trainings. We'll talk about that today as well. But we want you to fill out that evaluation today, especially so that we can look at what we need to be doing for next year that's really going to meet your needs. And that's really about advocating for yourself, which our topic today is going to be advocacy. As I was preparing today and thinking about just some words of encouragement for you before we get started with the formal training, I was thinking about the book of Philippians 1 verses 3 through 5. And it's just an encouragement to you. Our team at Africa Fire Mission remembers you in our prayers and our thoughts. All of you, we think of you. We are advocating for you across the world, not just when we're in Africa, but when we're in other places across the world, we're advocating for you. And we think of you with joy because of our partnerships from the first time we've met, whether it's been in person or online up until now. And so I just want to share that encouragement with you today. A little adjustment on the book of Philippians verses 1 through 3. But those words are true for the team at AFM. And whether it's Mike and I, Jose, our regular volunteers that provide trainings, our volunteers that travel, and we have staff and volunteers working behind the scenes for you all the time. So please know that we're here for you more than just for the training, and are just excited to share training resources for you. Today, we're going to really focus on you and what you can do to advocate for yourself, for your fire services. And I hope that today we'll have a lot of discussion. So I know a lot of times discussion kind of waits until tea time. I'm going to encourage discussion today along the way as we go. And so we will get started here. Just 1 second. Where'd it go? Oh, there we go. I think I just closed my presentation. Hang on. Great example that I'm setting here. That's fantastic. As I'm pulling this up, if you would go ahead and maybe in the chat add, as I know some of you are still doing introductions, but also in the chat, put what do you think of when you hear the word advocacy? What is it that you think of when you hear the word advocacy? What does that mean to you? And you can keep dropping those into the chat for yourself there. I'll go and look at those in a little bit. So we're going to talk about using your strengths for advocacy today. Just a reminder for those of you who may be newer to AFM, I wanted to just share our mission statement with you and some of our core values at AFM. So we're based in the United States. I think most of you know that, with offices in Kenya. And we are committed to increasing the sustainable capacity of fire and emergency services across developing communities, especially in Africa. We accomplish this with training, empowerment, support, and encouragement. So we're sometimes thought of a little differently, and that most of our work is what some people would call the soft skills, where we make sure that you have the training that you need, the support that you need to advocate for yourself, and the work that you're doing. We want you to have the training, both hands-on training and trainings like this that help you be prepared to do your work. And we really want to see fire services grow and develop across the continent of Africa. We do this through partnership, a development mentality, community ownership. There's a lot of things that we don't do that other organizations might do because you own this. This is the fire service in Africa owns what we do, while we might be coming alongside you. We're looking for transformation in fire and emergency services, sustainability, and innovation. We have 5 core pillars that we focus on as we do this, and some of these we focus on more than others. But all of these, we are looking for that community and individual transformation. So it's not just about your fire service changing, but it's about what can happen with you as you do things like attend these trainings and better yourself as a fire emergency services provider. So I want to start with an opportunity for you to share some things with me, and would love for you to share some of your strengths. So a couple of things that you can throw this in the chat, or I'm actually going to be quiet for you to be able to make some comments. You can unmute yourself and comment on this. The strengths that I'm showing here on the screen are from a resource called Via Character, Values in Action. And strengths, when we put them in action, are very valuable. So strengths like perseverance. I think many firefighters have that strength. Bravery. I think of strengths of teamwork when I think of many firefighters. Self-regulation is really important in the fire service. But we all have our own individual strengths, in addition to characteristics that may show up for you as a fire emergency services provider. We all also have our own individual strengths. And so it might be the strength of zest, approaching life with excitement. You might have a strength of leadership, or a strength of fairness or hope or judgment. So I just want to pause for a moment, and maybe it's not these words that come to mind for you, but what what are your strengths? What are some strengths that come to mind when you think of yourself, especially in the fire service? And you can unmute yourself to share those or drop those comments in the chat.
Can you just come again on that one? On the
You
on the
bet.
last sentence.
Yeah. What are your strengths? What are the things that you personally are good at that drive you on a day-to-day basis?
Hello.
Hey, Manuel.
How are you, ma'am?
I'm well, thanks. Thanks for being here today.
I'm good. I'm good. I just want to engage on what you were saying. So, according to me, my strength is that I believe in team building, because on a daily basis we need to ensure that our strength, we are united and avoiding we avoid collusion in terms of achieving a similar objective. So what we usually do on our side, we have a team building, like each and every task that we do, we execute it as a team. On a daily basis, we have a mandate that we just introduced. We need to do 100 push-ups every day. So when we enter on duty, the first thing before we check our vehicles, we do 20 push-ups. Before we go for lunch, 20 push-ups. Like at the end of the day, we need to do 100 push-ups. So that's team building. At the end of the day, even if you have stress, with that, it can build you, it can give you a moral in order to have a good relationship amongst yourself. And we can identify the strength among ourselves. But at the end of the day, we have a good team.
Absolutely. And small things like, which 200 push-ups a day is not a small thing, but impressive.
No, yeah,
I love it. Yeah, but little things like that build the team, right? So you mentioned several things that you do. You're intentional about that teamwork and using that strength. As a team, you're doing those push-ups, you're doing truck checks together, you're training together. So there's many ways that you're building that team. Fantastic. Yeah. Other strengths. This might someone else. Thanks so much, Manuel.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah. Yeah, can I take your floor now?
Absolutely, Patrick.
All right. Yeah, from my side, yeah, I make sure that, let's say, for example, I'm going on duty, I'll be on duty tomorrow. I have to prepare for myself properly. That in terms of my clothes, have to clean my clothes in time, I have to wake up in time. If I used to go for morning run, I have to go in time. So I should come up and catch up the time. I should get my shower in time, making sure that I arrive at the station in time. On my way, I still buy time to figure out what am I supposed to go to do with my friends at work. When I arrange, I find that thing definitely when we commence our duties after changing with our friends. Then we say, okay, guys, I've got this for today. What do you think about it? Somebody will chip in, will give you ideas. It's right. Okay, let's not do that one. What if you can do this one? Then you see that there's a teamwork here. There's a good communication. I make sure that whenever I want to do something, I have to approach my friends, because they also have an idea that they can contribute, because no man is an island. We always depend with one another. So when we say, okay, guys, today we want to deal with our rescue box, go and take it out. You take it out, you inspect it. How is it? Is it clean, or we need some waster to remove the oils or whatsoever? We inspect our cutters, the spreaders, whatever we use. We inspect them. How are they? Are they ready that you can use them or not? If not, what can be the problem? Something like that. You check the bolts and nuts whatsoever. Are they screwed properly? Are they tight? If not tight, what shall we do, guys? Let's gather some spanners, some wrenches, whatsoever we can get. After that, we say, okay, thanks for this. But take note, guys, it's a responsibility of everyone. It's everybody's responsibility. Make sure that whenever it's at the station, you should be figuring out. Say like, guys, if you say we heard a call, there's a fire, somebody is trapped, how are we going to manage? What type of rescue carriers are we going to do to show them, to showcase there? Then you start to figure out, okay, I'll use 200 seats, I'll use something like this, something like that. So we come at the station, keep on, and the other thing, whenever at the station, you should stop from talking something, wasting much time with something which cannot be beneficial to our duties, which cannot help our day-to-day duties when you're at the team. We should keep on talking much of what we normally does when we're on duty, we are called for duties. That will help us, that will make us prepare very well. We have good preparation and response as long as we are talking a lot of things, a lot of stuffs, especially for our fire service, not outside the fire service, which are inside the fire service. So make sure that when you are doing that, everyone should be a contributor, everyone should be participating. You never leave anybody behind. If anybody is behind, take note of that one who's not present. When he's back, please talk to him or her. Hey bro, we had this. So suppose you have an incident today. This is your role. This is your role. This is your role. If you're not sure, if not familiar, ask this one was there. He's going to help him or her. That's the way to go. Sure,
Great.
Nancy.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, so I really heard those strengths of self-regulation and preparing for your day, preparing with personal care. I think that's such an important thing that we can sometimes forget, is that preparation, good communication, which is a fantastic strength. And then that strength of perseverance I heard brought to light in making sure that you're doing those truck checks, that you're checking all of your equipment, that you're doing the maintenance that's needed on the equipment, and then good communication amongst your team. So thank you so much. And I hope as you guys think of your strengths that you'll continue to share some of those things in the chat. You can also go and take a free character strengths assessment at viacharacter.org. And I'll drop that link here in the chat as well. It's on the slide here. But it's a great free resource that you can utilize. And so important that we think about our own strengths and how we use our strengths every day. So I want to apply those strengths to advocacy. And I know we've done a couple trainings in the past on advocacy before, and I wanted to look at this through the lens of strength today and through you. So we're going to talk about advocacy in a couple of different ways, but I want to just run through a little bit of information and then we'll discuss it. So what is advocacy? Advocacy in the fire service is really about supporting and promoting policies, resources, and initiatives that enhance preparedness and response capabilities and safety. And I think as I talk about these things, I want you to think about this in several different ways. I want you to think about it for yourself. So what Patrick mentioned in that self-care and self-preparation for your day, that is really important. We need to bring that advocacy it starts with ourselves and taking care of ourselves, and then we can advocate for our own needs. So we'll talk more about that. But and then we think about the fire station and what's happening at your place and maybe the greater county or state or at the federal level, what advocacy might be needed. And your company, for those of you who work in the private industries, what advocacy is needed. Advocacy is really important. It helps ensure that you have access to critical resources, equipment, training, mental health support. I believe that by being here today, you are advocating for yourselves, which is a great strength. Advocacy also strengthens awareness. So every time you go out into the community, you have the opportunity to advocate. As you teach, you're advocating for the community to take more responsibility, not only for what resources you might need, but also for what resources they have that can make changes. And then we can also influence at a policy making level as well. And we want to think about, in advocacy, there's a lot of stakeholders. You are a stakeholder in advocacy. The community around you is a stakeholder. Your fire service leadership or emergency services leadership are stakeholders, policymakers. You may, in your place, have organizations that you can belong to that are available. AFM has been working really hard with some of the international fire service organizations to support the membership of firefighters from developing nations. And there's one organization now that we've actually been able to impact their membership fees for people in developing nations. The Institute of, the ISFSI, which I'll drop a link for here later, but they are an instructors organization for fire instructors, the International Society of Fire Service Instructors. And they have adjusted their bylaws or the rules that they follow to allow for members at an adjusted rate from developing nations to join their fire service or join their membership and take advantage of those resources. So there's lots of ways. Thanks, Mike, for dropping that link in the chat. There's lots of ways that you can advocate with that. And whether that's your own organization or international organization, lots of resources available to you. So some things where advocacy can go into action. We can raise awareness. I mentioned educating the public. Very key. If your public doesn't know you exist, and that could be, I know we've got a lot of people that here today from private corporations. Your public is the other employees, and making sure that they know what your role is and what the fire prevention is. But you can also advocate outside of your company into your communities and those of you who work in the public sector, making sure that you are helping your communities understand your role, and you do that through fire prevention and fire safety activities. Securing resources. This is key. Advocacy is going to be what helps to secure resources for your fire brigades, for your departments, getting modern equipment and improved facilities, getting the welfare needs met for yourself at the fire station. And this can happen in a variety of ways. It doesn't have to come through government. I am thinking of a place in Kenya that I know that reached out to a local mattress factory, and that mattress factory agreed to provide mattresses for the firefighters and for free. And the firefighters had provided some fire training at that facility also for free. And that became a way that they developed a partnership that helped them get some basic needs met for their firefighters. So think about that. Think about the ways that you can advocate for some of your needs in different ways than just going through government officials. Advocacy also helps us shape policy with government and industrial leaders, establish standards, building codes. I was just talking recently about building codes in some countries, and sometimes they're not very supportive to the fire safety standards that you need. And so advocating for quality building standards and utilizing some of those international codes to assist you can really, really help. And that would be something at the county, state, or federal level that you'd be advocating for. And then collaboration. I mentioned that collaborating with NGOs, with businesses, educational institutions. Businesses can really be great partners of yours, and they may support training, or they may support food for training for you. They may come alongside and offer some of their equipment to for you to become familiar with, even if you don't own it yet. And they can help to educate your government on or your employer on the importance of the equipment that you need. So ways we can advocate. We can look at attending community meetings. Maybe there's something that's not related to the fire service, but it's a topic you're interested in the community. Go, be a representative, wear your uniforms if you have them. If you don't have uniforms, that's one of the things that we encourage you to advocate for. Or maybe you come together as a team. We talked about teamwork, and you decide, you know what, we all need to buy a t-shirt. We're all going to buy the same t-shirt that has our fire department's logo on it. And so thinking about some of those ways that you can really engage and show up at those meetings where people know that you are a firefighter. Was talking with someone recently about an advocacy event, and one of the people that came was wearing uniform for that first day's event, and the rest of the firefighters showed up without their uniforms. And they realized that the community members were not talking to them because they just looked like community members. They didn't look like they were there as firefighters. And that doesn't mean you have to wear your PPE all the time. But if you've got a uniform or come together and look uniform as a team, that makes a big difference in that advocacy. So the next day, they all showed up in their uniforms and were able to engage the community so much more because of that uniform. So really small things can make a big difference in terms of increasing your professionalism. Volunteer for fire safety education programs. That can be on duty or off duty. Make a plan and get out into your communities. I'll talk more about ways we can help with that for those that aren't familiar. Talk about initiatives like mental health programs and the equipment that you need. Advocate for policies that benefit your safety and well-being. And where you need to, just take action to ensure that your safety and well-being is taken care of. Be a voice for change. Share fire safety messages on social media. Contact local representatives to talk about the importance of fire service funding and policy reforms. Many of you have great contacts across the fire service and within your local governments. Utilize those contacts to help support you. And then finally, create or join advocacy networks. Collaborate with others who are passionate about enhancing fire service capabilities. So lots of things that you can do here. And what I want us to do next is to talk about what you might be already doing or what you could do. So I want you to think about first for yourself and your family. How can you use your strengths to advocate for yourself and for your family? And this could be just in general or specifically to the fire service. But what are some ways you can engage to advocate for yourself? And feel free to take yourself off mute and let's keep the conversation going.
You come again, Nancy. You come
Yeah.
again?
Yep. So what are some ways that you can use your strengths to advocate for yourself and your family?
All right, okay. Some of the ways you can use. Yeah, one of the things is trusting yourself, taking responsibility yourself of who you are, what do you know about what you want to advocate to tell others, to advocate to others. First, you have to know, you have to prepare for yourself. Okay, I want to advocate my family. Okay, say for I have to advocate for myself. I have to make sure that I know what I am doing. The same thing when I go home with my family, I'll tell them the same thing. Please, guys, make sure if you want to do this, avoid this, avoid this. If you see this, please do this to prevent fire. Even when you go to the community, first thing is to prepare for yourself, taking responsibility, know what you do, where you're gonna start, where you're gonna stop. The no's, the don'ts, you have to know them. I'm not supposed to say this. I'm not supposed to do this. So as to be as good as you are preparing for yourself. But the first thing is be yourself. Know what you are doing. So if somebody come across you and ask you a question, you should not be like just somebody just sent you without giving you a lot of information. No, prepare for yourself. Once you prepare for yourself, that means whatever can come across with you, it'll be easy for you to deal with it. Sureness. That's about me.
Absolutely. Great. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, taking responsibility for yourself, developing your own skills as a firefighter, that's huge. Sometimes we're waiting for others. Maybe at your place, that sense of teamwork isn't developed very well. You can take that on as a responsibility to advocate for yourself, but you also can take responsibility for yourself by developing your own skills and inviting your team to come alongside you. Paying attention to your own safety. And I love that concept of I've got to go into my own community and make sure that they know how to be safe from fires. Whether I'm on the job or off the job, that responsibility starts at home. I love that. So thank you. Someone else. I'd love to have someone else share. How can you advocate? Use your strengths to advocate for yourself and for your family. Maybe someone from Kenya. I see Faith here. I see Kennedy. I see Wallace. I see Alex. Someone else share how you could use your strength to advocate for yourself. If I didn't call your name, that's okay.
Hi, madam. How are you?
Ah, there's a familiar voice. I'm well. How are you, Richard?
Fine, thank you. Doing well, thank you. How are you? How is it?
I'm
We are
good.
preparing for Christmas.
Yes, preparing for Christmas.
Yes. It's a good afternoon. It's good evening in Kenya and in Africa, and then it's good morning in US. So
Yes, exactly.
maybe to contribute on the question in today's lesson is personally being a lead firefighter and also a duty officer or a crew commander in my station. There's some things that we have worked and tried to improve on because Personally, we think with the firefighters that we have, most of them, the job of advocacy, we tend to see like it is not part of our daily job or part of our duties. So for us, we have tried to make sure like we start it at home. We started at the fire station so that everyone will get the information on the basics, because most of us know, we as the firefighters, most of us has adapted the skill of only fighting the fire without, and we say our job is to fight the fire. But actually, our job is more in preventing that fire, because the moment we prevent that fire, our work become easier, and then our exposure to carcinogen that causes most of these diseases that we know. We know for firefighters, we have around 155 chances to get cancer, any cancer. So if we don't advocate for it, for people to understand the aspect of fire prevention, I think it also puts us into risk. The other thing is we remember we did about the internship programs about on the school, how to go to school, conduct drills, also help evacuate the pupils and learners in Kenya and across all the schools. So that's also part of us. If we can be able to adapt that, most of these school fires would reduce, because to give an example with the Mohi schools, now the students and the learners know a little bit of what to do in case of a fire. So we won't have stampedes, we won't have learners and students jumping over high windows and trying to make sure like try to evacuate the building. So they will know how to evacuate when we tell them to get out when they are in toes, and also to crawl under smoke is something that it's very, very beneficial with, and that's what we're trying to do. We hope by January personally, I've written to some of these big schools. We try to write to the head teachers, and also try to write to the Ministry of Education that is on the county level to give us a platform and to make sure we achieve the goal of each and every runner know how to exit or evacuate from either a smoky building or a burning building. So the other thing that we do a lot is we work it on in Kenya we have the fire symposium, the EMS and fire symposium that happens annually. So that also is part of that. We have really tried to encourage people about most of the skills and fire prevention skills, and we hope and we pray that by the end of the day we'll have as many people to come and contribute in fire prevention and advocacy in all manner. And advocacy does not stop there. We need to do advocacy to some of our supervisors, because we have our bosses who sometimes most of these positions are political and they don't have the experience and the exposure for what we have. So we start from home, we advocate for people, for the staffs, for the firefighters, fellow firefighters, also for our fire chief, to go up the ladder until we reach to the highest, so that this field can feel the impact of what we do down here. So thank you so much.
Awesome, thank you. And for those, Richard mentioned Missions of Hope International, Mohi. For those who aren't familiar with Mohi, I did drop a link to their website. They are a big partner of Africa Fire Missions, especially in Kenya. But their influence and partnership with us really expands across all of our programs. So thanks for mentioning them as well. Richard, I really appreciate kind of that starting at home, that we can't wait, right? We can't wait for somebody else to tell us how to advocate or what to do. We've got to start with the things that we can do. So starting with things about, just paying attention to ourselves, that connection to preventing fires and teaching the community to prevent fires reduces your cancer risk. Hear that, right? Preventing fires reduces your cancer risk as a person. So when you go out into your communities, you are helping to save your own life.
Yes.
That's powerful, right? If that's going to help save my life, I want to get out there into the community. And really appreciate those ways, Richard, that you mentioned. I think you hit a lot of those. Advocacy can be hard. You're right. Your bosses don't always know, depending on where you're at, if it's a political appointment, or maybe it's, you know, not necessarily a political appointment even, but it's just someone who doesn't have experience in the fire service that's been given the job for whatever reason. And hopefully some of those people are here learning. We want them to learn, right? So we advocate for them to show up with you at trainings. We advocate for those folks to learn, and we are the ones that have to educate. You are the ones that have to educate, right? And when I say we, I don't mean we Africa Fire Mission. I mean we, all of us on this call. You are the ones that have to help make sure that they know what to do. One of AFM's advocacy pieces that we've been working on, and it's a little slower than I would prefer, but we do a lot with little resources, so you know how that growth goes. But we've been writing white papers. We have one out on SCBAs, and the intention of that, of talking about breathing apparatus, is you all know that you need them as firefighters, but those bosses and your boss's bosses don't know why. They don't understand it sometimes. And so if you can have something that supports why you need it and why you need quality and why it needs to be tested, that can be a resource for you to take as you go to advocate. Writing letters to the different ministries about how you can partner with them to keep students safe. I love that in thinking about education. You might look at doing that also within healthcare organization, and advocating with the Ministry of Health about what you can do as a firefighter to help keep their facilities safe. How can you partner with those other parts of government, for those of you in private industry, other departments within your organization, to reduce fires? So really, really appreciate that. I want to go next. Some of this is bleeding together, which is perfect. You're thinking about all of these things. What about specifically your welfare on the job? How do you use your strengths to advocate for your own welfare on the job? Thanks, Mike, for dropping that white papers link there. You can pull that white paper I just mentioned from our website. And let's even expand that. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
On the part of mental health, in my department or in my station, we have developed this part of, like, we can have a round table amongst ourselves, talk about some of these challenges that we face when you go to fire scenes, and how we can be able to improve on the next. And if there was something that was maybe a road traffic accident that really caught us our pants down on it, we work on it, we talk through it. And if there's something that maybe like what happened, I don't know, most of the people in Kenya have really heard about it on the Endarasha school that we lost approximately 21 learners in one night. So when we look at such a such a way, we started at home. We talk about it. If we don't have, then we walk through, and then we have some counselors that we know about, and we talk to them. And so far, we have seen some improvement amongst ourselves in that is in behavioral part, and also we also have some other people who we love the job more than anything else. So we form like a baraza, or a round table, as we call it here, and we talk about it. We speak about it. If we feel like, no, this one is too much, then we can engage someone else. But we see, for us, it is helping, because our supervisor is much welcoming when we tell him about, when we ask something like that. He also goes to the field with us, and it really encourages us. And it's something that I think if we can go step by step, adapting the same. It's a good way.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Richard. That's great. Roundtables coming back, discussing not only what worked well at the fire scene and what didn't, and what you can improve, but also how it impacts you personally, and what how it's affected you. Really valuable. And many of you know I'm a social worker by training, and had started, part of my career has been providing therapy services. And so I'm always encouraged when I hear you all talking about identifying professionals to talk to that are skilled in mental health and post-traumatic stress disorder, especially, can be such a valuable resource to your fire departments to help you be able to do your job. There's so many times you see awful things. And, you know, Mike and I actually at the beginning of this training, we're just talking about some of the hard things that we see. And it's really important that we're getting the support that we need to process that, whether that's informally with your team, or formally with professional support. Anybody else? And let's even expand that to, just because of time, to advocacy in general, with your supervisor, directors, etc. Go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Just also to add on that one, what my friends has already said about advocacy together with the welfare. Yeah. If you talk about advocacy is all about making good friendship, not just me, but good friendship or good relationship with the community out there. How? By giving them, apart from our emergency number, hotline number, we can also as well give them my personal number. So in the event of that, there's an emergency, and you will find that this number is not working, our emergency line, you can use my number, no problem. You can as well talk after the scene or before the scene, how is it there? And you can also tell them, you can also assign the fire marshals within the community. You can make the groups, telling them what to do. Suppose there's a fire, this is guys, suppose there's a fire, this is the first thing you have to do. Look what first consider of your safety. Think of safety of the surrounding, think of the environment whatsoever. You can also think of people, the vulnerable people. You have to support the vulnerable who cannot manage to run away from the fire. Please put your first thing is also to save those people. Make sure if they are present, those people who are vulnerable, help them to get away from the scene. After that, then you call the fire brigade. But the simple thing is making good friendship with the community out there. That's one way of improving the welfare, fire saves the community. And if there can be any anomalies whatsoever, it can be talked this as if they don't have the proof, they can easily call us. We need you here. There are misunderstandings here. People are saying this, or say which is which. What are we supposed to fire? What First thing to do, what is it? You have to go again and talk to them. This is what you're supposed to do, guys. Do this, close window, something like that. But all you know is make sure that you make good relationships and friendship with the community out there. Sure.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thanks so much. So many things that we can talk about. I love that community relationships piece keeps coming up because it, we've talked really from the beginning of the development of AFM that sometimes advocating at that larger scale of federal or county or state government is so big, it can feel overwhelming and can take a long time to get a government to move. But when you train the community then becomes an advocate alongside you to grow your fire service. And so not only is it helping to reduce fires, but the community knows who to call. And when they become your friends, they will go with you to say, our fire department needs this, right? They will go with you and say, absolutely, we need this. I'll give you a quick example of advocacy gone poorly. In my area, there was a school system that was asking for additional services that had to be voted on for a tax. And the school system that was asking for that change didn't inform their community what that would do until it was very late, just before voting happened. They started to talk about what the tax would do and what it would pay for. And because people did not understand in that community what the tax would do and how it would help their students, people voted against it. And that school district is now losing services that they had before because the community didn't understand how it would impact them. And another nearby community, the community knew what that tax was going to do for their school system, and they passed that, saying a very similar type of tax. They said, yes, we want these services for our community. So it's about educating, right? As the fire service, are you educating your government officials about what you need and the quality of the equipment that you need? I think sometimes we've seen where, okay, maybe you've built it into your budget and it's been approved. Now, how do we spend that budget, right? So also advocacy can become learning how those government processes work so that you can get the resources that you need. So I want to start to wrap up here. And these are just some of the things in each of our pillars that we've done over the years. This one specifically looking at advocacy. So bringing community officials out to see the resources that you have and that you might need and to talk about them. Are you bringing those folks to your fire stations? Are you proud to show them your place? What can you do to help with that? Here's our founder, Dave Moore, with the former governor of Nairobi, when we first provided some PPE, and we invited him to come try it on, learn about it. And that resulted in some great advocacy in Nairobi. Letting people see you in your PPE, encouraging that in your uniforms, that you are identifiable as a fire service. So some ways that we can support your advocacy, and I'm going to make these really quick. These will be available to you. But we have our fire safety show. You can share those videos on social media. So go to our YouTube channel, look up the Tochi and Jose Fire Safety Show, and share those. Share those not amongst yourselves. Please do that as well, but share them to your friends, to the public, if you're on social media. utilize our fire prevention program. We have all kinds of curriculum. In the next month or so, we're going to have our website is undergoing a few changes. So you might see some things move around, make it a little easier for you to navigate. But we have all kinds of fire prevention curriculum on our website that you can use today. We're working on some first aid curriculum that will be easily accessible to you in the same format as our fire prevention curriculum. We already talked about getting those fire safety lessons into schools and communities. Host fun days at your fire station as well. Other things for yourself, you know, online trainings, in-person trainings, doing those daily trainings at your fire station, very, very important. Thinking about the equipment that you need to advocate for. And then, of course, policies that are needed at local, state, county, federal levels, depending on your form of government. Some ways that AFM's advocating alongside of you and looking into the future. We're continuing to grow to more countries. We're continuing to grow our fire safety advocacy programs. We're looking at continuing. We did a pilot with a fire prevention internship this year in Kenya. We're looking at continuing that and finding ways to grow that into other countries in the future. I mentioned our first aid curriculum. We're growing our consulting work and consulting with businesses and governments around fire safety and firefighter training. Continuing to grow our training development, and then also expanding to serve immigrant and refugee populations in other outside of Africa as well. So really grateful for all of you today for your discussion. I'm gonna let Mike do the formal wrap up for today, but I'm gonna stick around for tea time as well. And it's just been great to be with all of you today.
All right. Thank you very much, Nancy. Really appreciate you coming and joining us today. It's great to see you here joining us in our training. And thank you to all of you for taking the time out of your schedules to join us for getting those bundles and finding that Wi-Fi that you can join us. We don't take for granted that you're spending your time to try to better yourselves and better your community. As I always say, we've got plenty of seats available here. So if you know of anyone that may benefit from this training, I'd encourage you to share the registration link and join us. We've got plenty of seats available. Speaking of that registration link, if you got our weekly email that we sent out today, you'll see there was a link there for our new registration for 2025. You can also find that on our website at www.africafiremission.org. If you go under the resources tab, training materials, there you'll find a link where you can register for the 2025 virtual training sessions. Those are going to be a different link. Today is the last day that we're using this link. So keep your eye out on our social media, our WhatsApp groups, our networking group. We'll be sharing that link all over the place so that you guys can join us. So please get in there, register for next year's classes so that we see you all again. We'll be off next week with Christmas and New Year's on the 1st. So we're going to resume this training January 8th on a Wednesday. I hope to see all of you there. Thank you so much for everything you do, and we hope to see you all in the new year.